In the control room, Mira organized her team. Some were tasked with rebooting the station's systems, while others scoured logs for clues. Liam, the youngest member, touched a control panel and suddenly gasped, pulling his hand away. "Did you feel that?" he stammered, his hand trembling. "It's like someone's here." The crew exchanged nervous glances, but the corridors around them remained empty. Mira dismissed it as Liam's imagination, but deep down, she felt a creeping unease. Her hand instinctively went to the clock in her pocket, and she noticed it was warm. That was impossible. There was no power source to heat it. As the team delved deeper into the station's mysteries, Mira wrestled with her own. This place seemed to taunt her with memories of her failure. The silence reverberating through its halls felt like the echo of her own mistakes. Then they found something chilling, a garbled message in the logs, the last transmission sent from the Ouroboros. The voice crackled with urgency. "Time cannot be controlled. Ouroboros is a trap. Leave, but too late." The transmission cut off abruptly. The crew exchanged fearful glances, the warning sinking into their bones. They had already noticed the time anomalies, but the recording hinted at something far worse. A looming catastrophe. Mira left the control room, embarking on a solo exploration of the station. She pulled the clock from her pocket and studied it closely. Beneath its cracked glass, she noticed something peculiar, a faint, swirling energy at its center. It moved like a miniature star, pulsating with an unnatural rhythm. As she walked, she felt as though the clock was whispering to her, its energy reverberating in her mind. The corridors grew darker as Mira ventured deeper, her helmet light casting long, eerie shadows. In one room, she found an object that stopped her in her tracks. An old chair surrounded by a holographic recording. The figure in the projection was hauntingly familiar, a younger version of herself. "This is impossible," Mira whispered. The hologram spoke. "Mira Sayer, are you repeating the same mistake? Will Ouroboros consume you again?" Her breath caught. She approached the hologram cautiously, her pulse pounding in her ears. The figure's voice deepened, and its face twisted into something grotesque. Mira stumbled back, her fear threatening to overtake her. Her radio crackled. "Mira, where are you? Things are strange here. The clocks, they're moving." She glanced at the clock in her hand. Its hands had stopped, but the swirling energy inside spun faster and faster, a vortex pulling her sanity with it. The Ouroboros was unraveling, and Mira was on the verge of being pulled into its chaos. The station seemed alive, shifting and twisting as though responding to their intrusion. The team became separated, each trapped in what felt like a different timeline. Mira's steps led her back to the control center, but she found herself alone. The clock in her hand burned hot. She hurled it to the ground, but instead of falling, it hovered mid-air, glowing with an eerie brilliance. Suddenly, Mira was no longer in the present. She was in the past, at the height of the Ouroboros' activity. People bustled through the station, laughing and working. It was a stark contrast to the lifeless corridors she had just left. But Mira recognized this moment. It was the beginning of her greatest failure. Her younger self was there, examining the clock for the first time. Mira realized the truth. The Ouroboros' destruction had been triggered by her own actions. This clock, this strange artifact, was the key. The younger Mira, oblivious to the danger, activated the wrong connection, setting off the catastrophic events that doomed the station. Mira had a choice. She could intervene, stopping herself from making the same mistake, or she could let the cycle continue. But she knew the cost. Breaking the cycle would mean she would become part of it forever. She stepped forward, her resolve hardening. She reached out to the clock, guiding her younger self away from it. As her fingers touched the device, Its energy surged, and the Ouroboros shuddered. Light consumed everything, and Mira felt herself dissolving into the station's fabric. When she awoke, she was outside the station, alone. The Ouroboros was gone, erased from existence, but the clock remained in her pocket, an eternal reminder of the loop she could never escape. Mira had saved the station from its endless cycle, but at the cost of her own freedom. She was now a prisoner of time, forever bound to the clock and its enigmatic, unrelenting pull. The abandoned space station Ouroboros was a forgotten stain in human history. Orbiting a desolate planet, it had once hosted groundbreaking scientific research until, one day, all communication ceased. For decades, no one dared to return, deterred by the failure of previous rescue attempts and ominous rumors that painted the station as a place where time itself had unraveled. Now, a team of scientists was embarking on a mission to uncover its secrets. The expedition's leader, Mira felt a mixture of anticipation and dread. Known for her fearless resolve, Mira carried the weight of a mistake from her past. A decision on a similar mission that had led to catastrophic consequences for an entire colony. Though no one openly blamed her, the memory haunted her, a shadow she couldn't escape. Returning to Ouroboros felt like stepping into that shadow, facing the echoes of her failure. As their ship docked at the station's massive curved entryway, unease was evident on the crew's faces. The station loomed, both imposing and eerie, its surface tarnished and dimly lit. But Mira's attention was drawn to something peculiar, a massive, old clock standing near the landing ramp. Rusted and cracked, its design was an odd relic amidst the futuristic decay. As the team entered the station, Mira slipped the clock into her pocket. Its cold, metallic surface felt heavier than it should have. It wasn't just a physical weight. It seemed to press on her mind, as though carrying a hidden significance. Inside, the first thing they noticed was the silence. The Ouroboros was deathly quiet. No emergency signals, no mechanical hum. Oxygen systems appeared functional, but the air was stale and oppressive. The corridors stretched endlessly, a labyrinth of shadows and anticipation. Making their way to the control center, Mira couldn't shake the sensation of the clock in her pocket. With every step, its weight seemed to grow. Then she noticed something odd. The clocks mounted along the walls of the corridors. Each one displayed a different time. Some seemed to race forward, others ticked backward. Time in the Ouroboros followed no discernible pattern.